Muzychuk is attacking Black's king with all her might and all her pieces, but there is no checkmate. Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with number 130 in this series Viewers Games. It is the turn of Viraj from India, and Viraj sent in a bullet game. It's a nice game with a few twists and turns, and we're going to look at it, but it's not the most exciting and instructive game I've posted so far in this series. So after we've seen Viraj's game, we're going to look at a few exciting endgame positions from the Women's Grand Prix event, which is currently, as I'm recording this video, in early March 2020, being played in Lausanne in Switzerland. 12 of the strongest female players in the world are competing there as part of the 2021 World Championship cycle. The winner of the candidate cycle will challenge World Champion Zhu Wenjun in 2021. By the way, Zhu Wenjun is also playing in Lausanne, even though she can of course not qualify to play herself next year. She's playing for the prize money, the rating points, and maybe she can ruin somebody else's chances to qualify to play her next year. It's similar to Magnus Carlsen playing in the World Cup a couple of years ago, which was also part of the qualification cycle, which would determine his next challenger. But we get to that later. Let's first look at Viraj's game. Hi Rick, I'm born and brought up in Maharashtra, a state in India. I came across chess in my childhood, but I started playing in the tournaments in 2014 for my college. Otherwise, mostly I played and have been playing online on chess.com or Lichess. I'm inspired by Vichy, Bobby Fischer, Mikhail Tal, Paul Morphy and many other legendary players. I'm also a big fan of chess engines and particularly the Deep Minds Alpha Zero program, who beat Stockfish. I really appreciate and like the way you explore a chess game and the perfection in your work. Thanks, regards, says Viraj. Interesting, I've never heard somebody being a fan of a chess engine, but why not? This game was played on chess.com on the 7th of September 2019. It was a bullet game, as I said, with 2 minutes per player for the whole game, plus a 1 second increment per move. The white player was Johnny Boy with a rating of 1104, and black was Viraj with a rating of 1155. We're going to look at the game from the black side. White opened with the e-pawn. Viraj played the Sicilian. f4, knight c6, knight f3, and here the main move, according to the database, is g6, but e6 is also possible, and that was played by Viraj. Bishop b5, and now knight g to e7 is the common move, but d5 was played by Viraj. Not a bad move, but a rare move. Not played as much as knight g e7 and some other moves. White decided to take on c6, give black doubled pawns, e5, knight e7, white castled, the knight went to f5, d3, bishop e7, c4, Viraj castled, b3 and a5. Here a strange move from white. He played a4 and it looks like a shot in the dark. The a pawn is not doing anything on a4 and now b3 is weak. The only thing it does is stop black from playing a4 himself and fixing the a5 pawn. As we'll see, it was white's plan to attack the a5 pawn with bishop d2 and queen e1. We'll see that in the game. And it's impressive that white had a plan at all, as this is a bullet game. Knight c3 is a more logical move, just bringing that knight into play. But as mentioned, a4 was played, rook b8, attacking that weakness straight away. It's for the moment defended by the queen. Rook a3, and you don't need me to tell you that this is a strange move. b3 was protected, and that rook is horribly passive on a3. Very strange move. Rook b4 from Viraj, but he had to retreat that rook after bishop d2. The rook is attacked, so the rook had to go back. Queen e1. As mentioned, white is ganging up on the a5 pawn with 2 pieces. And rook a8 to defend it with rook and queen is very passive, and also it's psychologically hard to go back with the rook to where it came from after the rook b4 maneuver. Viraj finds another move. He plays d takes c4. And if you now play b takes c4, then you have solved your weakness on b3, and the d3 pawn is protected. At least that rook on a3 has a purpose after all. But white did not do that. White took on a5, which leaves the d3 pawn unprotected, and Viraj took it. Now white took on c4, is attacking the queen that way, but the queen can take back on c4. Queen c3, offering a trade of queens. And now look at this move. A very interesting queen sacrifice from Viraj in a bullet game. Quite impressive. Queen takes f4, taking that pawn is the best move in the position, but Viraj took on f1 and sacrificed his queen. Not objectively the best option for black, but in a bullet game it's a tempting way to play, as black now gets play against white's king, and he also gets rook and knight for the queen. King takes, there goes the knight with check, king f2 and c4, attacking the rook on a3. This is an important moment. Rook a1 should be played here. That swaps the rook, or at least gets the rook out of the zone around white's king. But white played rook a2, leaving that rook on the back rank, and that's a dangerous attacker. White's king is exposed. Bishop c5 check, king e2, and bishop a6, keeping the c4 pawn alive. That's an important pawn for black. Knight d2, attacking the rook. Rook to g1, attacking the g pawn with check. King f3 here is the best move for white according to the engine, but white played g3 instead, and that's not a good move. Bishop d4. Black's pieces are causing havoc in white's position. White finds it very difficult to keep things together with both his king and his queen exposed to black's very active pieces. a3 seems the best square for the queen, puts it out of harm's way, but now c3 is also very strong, and that's the move we see in the game as well. White did not play the queen to a3, he played the queen to f3. And now c3 check. And now we see how unfortunate the position from the queen on f3 is. It's taking a flight square away for the king. The king would like to go to f3 now, but it can't. And the only way for white to continue the game is by giving up his own queen. There's no other moves. So queen d3 was the only move. That queen was taken. King takes, and there's also a knight hanging on d2. Rook takes, the smoke has cleared, and black is a rook and a knight up. The only reason for white to play on is the fact that this is a bullet game. Rook a8, attacking the bishop, and king e4, giving up even more material, because Viraj took the bishop. And yes, white gets 2 pieces for the rook, but that's still a good deal for black. That's now 2 extra rooks for black, and the remaining moves don't require any commentary. White resigns 1 move before checkmate. Let's have a look. Took on a4. We'll just go through the moves. Nothing to play for white, of course, being 2 rooks down. And now Viraj finds the mating net. Rook c2, and the next move will be rook a2 checkmate. And in this position, after 39 moves, white resigned, and Viraj had won a very nice game. The queen sacrifice was quite spectacular, and Viraj completely outplayed his opponent following that queen sacrifice. Quite impressive in a bullet game, and especially for a player rated 1155 as Viraj was at the time that this game was played. Well done Viraj, and thank you very much for sending in this game. And as mentioned, we're going to look at some endgames from the Women's Grand Prix held in Lausanne, Switzerland. This is from round 5, played on the 6th of March 2020. White is Grandmaster Anna Muzychuk from Ukraine, and black is Grandmaster Nana Dzagnidze from Georgia. And this is the position after the 40th move from black. b5 takes c4, the time control has been reached. White has put all her eggs in one basket, and she has burned her bridges behind her, to use 2 cliches. Muzychuk is attacking black's king with all her might and all her pieces, but there is no checkmate, and black has 1,000,000 extra pawns on the queen side. Well, there's a slight exaggeration, it's not 1,000,000, it's only 3, but that's a lot, and those pawns will advance. Muzichuk sees nothing better than giving up a piece and hopes to be able to harass the black king with perpetual check options. She took on g7 with the knight, a piece sacrifice, rook takes only move, rook takes check, queen takes and queen takes d6. Black is a piece up and is winning, but Muzichuk hopes for some perpetual checks. c3 from black, one step closer to the promotion square, and queen d5 check. Not only check, but also attacking the bishop with two pieces, threatening to win a piece back. Queen f7 is forced to protect the piece a second time, but a pinned piece is a bad defender and the queen is pinned. So in fact, Muzichuk can win a piece back, but Dzagnidze had looked further. But now Muzichuk also saw the force variation that will come on the board, and she resigned here, just at the moment she can win a piece back. Let's see why she resigned. It's quite nice. Rook takes f5, winning the piece back. Queen takes d5, rook takes d5, and we have a rook endgame with equal pawns, but this pawn is too far advanced. Rook c8 behind the pawn, you have to hurry back. c2, you have to go in front of the pawn, no option, and then the other pawn sets itself in motion. Now Dzagnidze was interviewed after this game and she showed this variation, and here the interviewer, the Swiss Grandmaster Yannick Pelletier, said yes, this is a win for black, but Dzagnidze says till the end because I like this. And it's very nice indeed. White can only try to bring the king closer as quickly as possible. a4, king f3, a3, king, pawn, king d2, and now what? How does black win this? It's actually a nice moment to put the video on pause, look for yourself. How can black bring the point home? Rook b8 was given by Grandmaster Mikhail Gurevich in the live broadcast, but Dzagnidze showed rook d8 check, which is the same thing. King takes c2 and then the rook goes back to c8, very nice. King b2 and the rooks get swapped and then the a-pawn promotes. And if you don't take back on c1 but take the pawn, then of course black also easily wins with the rook against two pawns. Very nice from Dzagnidze and a great comeback, because only 24 hours before this game a disaster happened to her in round 4. In this position Dzagnidze is white and the Indian Grandmaster Harika Dwanavalli is black. The position is about equal. Harika's last move was bishop c2 to e4. And a normal variation here is to take on c6. Rook takes and then knight e5 with a roughly equal position. But disaster struck in this position. Dzagnidze played knight e5 straight away. And again, if you want to look for the refutation, it's not very difficult. If you can find it, you play stronger than Grandmaster Dzagnidze, at least on this occasion. Because Harika saw it, she took on c1, rook takes c1, and now simply queen g5. Ouch! A double attack. Hitting the rook, and also hitting checkmate on g2. Dzagnidze resigned, there's nothing to do against this double threat, and she must have had a bad night's sleep. But as we saw, she bounced back the next day, and that's one of the attributes you need to have as a Grandmaster: mental toughness. So we saw Anna Muzichuk having a bad day at the office, and what about her sister Maria Muzichuk? Anna Muzichuk, by the way, is a former Rapid and Blitz world champion. Maria Muzichuk is a former classical world champion. She became world champion in 2015 in a knockout event, and then defended her title against Hou Yifan, a match she lost. In this game in round 5, played on the 6th of March 2020, Maria Muzichuk is white against the world champion, Zhu Wenjun. So a former world champion against a current world champion, and this is the position after 62, knight c7 to e6 from Zhu Wenjun, and white is winning. She has an extra pawn on c6 and has a winning position. A good move here is g5, and then after the game Zhu Wenjun showed h takes g5 and then bishop takes e4, and white is winning with her two passed pawns. Black is not able to contain them both, and you cannot take the bishop because then h6 and this pawn goes through. So in this position, g5 is the winning move. But Muzychuk, she was in terrible time trouble, and then anything is possible, thought she could win on the spot by playing bishop takes e4 straight away. But that's not good. She gave away the win on this move. Zhu Wenjun took the bishop, g5, but now king e5 is possible. And the king will stop the h-pawn, while the knight is keeping an eye on the c-pawn. And white has given away a bishop. G takes h6, and around here Maria Muzychuk started to shake her head. We could see that on the camera. She realized what she had done. The position is a dead draw, and I'll show you the remaining moves. King f6, and if you go to f3 with the king, which looks logical to pick up the f-pawn, there is knight d4 check, costing you that important c-pawn. King takes, knight takes, and this is a draw. In the game, king h3 was played by Muzychuk, king f7, king g4, king g8, king f5 hitting the knight, but now we have that knight fork again, costing you the c-pawn. King takes the f-pawn, knight takes c6, and this position is a simple draw, as we'll see. Let's just go through the remaining moves. All this is simple stuff for players at Grandmaster level, and we have two bare kings on the board and there was no handshake. Such was a disappointment from Maria Muzychuk. She couldn't wait to get out of the arena, and Zhu Wenjun must have been mightily relieved. So a bad day at the office for the two Grandmaster Muzychuk sisters, but there are many rounds to go and I'm sure they will bounce back. They are mentally tough, as we saw Nana Zagnidze was after her disaster in round 4. She came back strongly in round 5. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel and please leave a comment. If you liked the video, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. If you would like your game to be analyzed on Chess to Impress, then send it to me by email to classroomchess64@gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram, on Twitter and on Facebook. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.